voice.
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everybody to our home sharing presentation with Amy Ford of Silvernest, who's been our main person at Silvernest that we're partnering with to just bring more ease, safety, communication, and success to home sharing here in the Methow Valley, because it's just such a win-win kind of a situation, whether you are a host or a seeker, to just bring a little bit more companionship, community, and financial ease to folks seeking and wanting to share homes. So welcome, Amy. Thanks so much for being here.
Sure thing. Thanks for inviting me. And you feel free to raise your hand or go off mute and interrupt me at any time with questions. This can be very informal. So my name's Amy. I've been at Silvernest 2.5 years or so, and I lead our partnerships work. Before that, I worked at the National Council on Aging for a little over 7 years. And then before that, NeighborWorks America, where I did training of housing counselors. Most of my work has been in housing and older adult work. And I was always aware of Silvernest since its inception about 8 years ago when it launched. And just, I think, very in love with the concept of home sharing, considering its versatility and how it can kind of meet a variety of needs for hosts and seekers, which we'll kind of talk through in a little bit. So this is what we're going to cover today. It's just the description. And I think, obviously having a roommate is not a new idea. We've lived among others and with others for all of human history. But for some reason, some can be attributed to different trends and different historical events, but really we've gone away from communal living in a lot of ways, and we've valued independence and single family homes in such an interesting way that I think we've all forgotten the joy that can come from actually living among others, and some of the burdens we can share, and some of the ways that it can enrich our life. Of course, it's not without conflict, which we'll talk a little bit about. We have to go into it with eyes wide open, which is what we try to help our users do. This is, it's kind of a bummer in some ways, but our country as a whole, we're all getting older and the birth rates aren't the same. And so we're just seeing a massive growth in older adult populations. And we're also living way longer than we ever had anticipated. Even just over the course of a generation or two, longevity has increased so significantly. It's really impossible to plan how much money you'll need later in life. Even the concept of retirement is debated. I personally feel, it's a dream for many. Most of us have to just keep working for as long as we can, and then make do with what we have. And so because of all these factors kind of coming together, we have to think creatively about how we can earn some income and maintain home ownership if that's important to us. And a large portion of older adults do own their own homes, and a lot of the wealth is within those homes, even if cash flow or savings is a bit more modest. And it's just known that most people just want to stay in community instead of moving. And actually this used to be 80%, and after the pandemic, probably unsurprisingly, it went up even more, about how moving into facilities wasn't necessarily the top choice. This is a story that was featured on PBS NewsHour, which we can make sure you get a link to at the end of this presentation. But this is one of our pairings on our site, and I think that their story is pretty common on our site. So this is Marlene and Becky. Becky is in the white shirt, owns her own home, works part-time, had a Roth IRA, and was just finding that cost of living and home maintenance and expenses were just getting more and more difficult to keep up with. And she had extra space, so she decided to rent it out. And Becky on the left with the flower shirt. She's a bit younger. She wanted some financial flexibility. She wanted to travel. And they've been living together now about 2 years. And they've become friends. They share friends. They host dinner parties. They cook together. They garden together. That isn't always the case. Some people aren't best buds. They're roommates, and that's okay too. But this was I think they went in with limited expectations and were just sort of both pleasantly surprised at how nice it was to live with one another. And we're seeing home sharing become, I guess I'd say, more mainstream. I think that the macroeconomic situation of housing across our country is pinching people in a lot of different ways, from the renter side as well as home ownership side. And we're seeing just more attention on this solution at a time when there's a lack of solutions, to be honest. And, to that end, we're seeing some growth in the home sharing space. Despite COVID, I think that what was really fascinating is, of course, COVID impacted our business. However, we didn't know if we were going to be, packing up our boxes, so to speak, or what, given the ongoing pandemic. But our users persisted to explore home sharing because they told us they just didn't really want to be alone. After many months of being alone, they were finding it hard to earn additional income. Many people were out of work. And so people were navigating the health risks in order to figure out how to still move forward, which was really fascinating and just sort of speaks to the demand and the need. Our back of the envelope is there's about 52 home sharing programs. This is give or take, there's a margin of error here because some of them are very small local programs. Some of them are multi-state. It really just depends. And our philosophy at Silvernest is really just, we want to cheerlead and support every single home sharing program because we all serve different geographies. We all serve different people. We all have a kind of a different approach. But the more we can kind of come together and talk about this solution and make it more normal for people to feel like, oh, there are actually quite a few people that live this way, it could be for me too. So it's really great to see some of the growth in this space. And when we say home sharing, specifically at Silvernest, what we're talking about is a host that has existing space in their home to rent out. And I just mentioned that because there is a lot of terminology that we use interchangeably sometimes, like co-housing, co-living, cohabitation, home sharing. And, in my perspective, co-housing, co-living, they're different. And we can talk about that if we need to, but just wanted to clarify that we are helping people who have space in their own homes find a housemate. And so on our platform, who is home sharing? So you just have to be 18 to use our site, but most of our users are majority of women living in their 50s and 60s. That's just generally who has space to share, who is at a time in life when, their home composition is maybe changing a bit, kids are moving out, relationship changes. Usually our users are talking to us about a time of transition that inspires them to consider the solution. I think what's really fascinating is when our hosts are signing up and they're listing their space, we ask them if they're open to reducing the rent for help around the house, and 40% say yes. So this is fascinating because our home seekers will see them negotiate around this. They'll say, what about if I take care of snow removal and some lawn care, some pet sitting, or some transportation, or some meal preparation, whatever it is. They negotiate that to that effect, and then they document it in their home sharing agreement. So it's clear what will take place and when. And that's a great way for someone to just get a little extra help with things that make it easier to stay in the home, as well as make it more affordable for the home seeker. So this is just about our platform specifically. We just kind of talked about an overview of, the trends we're seeing in home sharing generally and who's using our platform, but what does our platform really do? So I'm just going to go into that a little bit, and then we'll close out with some specific information about the partnership with Methow Home. So we are human beings. There's conflict. That's just sort of inevitable. And so knowing that, we try to be really honest about what those, areas of potential rub are. And so we've organized ourselves around these 5 things that we think are the biggest and most important things to tackle when considering sharing space. So trust. Is someone who they say they are? Am I actually compatible with this person? How do I know that we'll live together well? What are the expectations? Have I communicated them? What even are my expectations? I think, we have probably all had roommates, and then at some point we haven't had them for so many years. We have to kind of reflect and say, what do I expect this to be like? And get clear on those so that we can communicate them. And how do I set boundaries? Can I maintain privacy? This is a big concern. People don't mind sharing, but they do want some privacy. So how can we help them achieve that? And how do I protect this arrangement? How do I make sure that rules are in place if things don't go as we hoped? And so really that's how we're designed. So just to sort of make sure I'm clear on this. So Silvernest is a platform. We're a technology company. We're a tool. In our partnerships, we leverage this tool in specific communities through partners to make it available in a more kind of focused way. Silvernest itself, we're not a program, so to speak. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think sometimes that gets a little lost. But how we address some of those concerns I went through is through a few ways. So one is around security. We support identity verification and background checks on our website. So when you're going through the process, all of that happens in one place. You don't have to go anywhere else and download and upload or, nothing like that. We also have private messaging. So this is great because you can chat with potential matches without giving away, your address or your phone number or email address. Then from a compatibility perspective, we have a matching algorithm. So we ask questions when the host and the home seekers are signing up. Some of them will probably seem logical, like about what's the policy around pets, what's the policy around, expectations around cleanliness and cleaning. Are you a night person? There are components here that just help articulate kind of how you live in your home and how the seeker lives and what their preferences are. And we also ask some of the harder questions that I think, maybe at first blush we don't consider, such as, are you comfortable with firearms in the home? That's important to discuss, but maybe sometimes we don't think about that on our own. So we try to guide and coach about some of those important conversations. And then from a guidance and a communication perspective, we have lots of education in-app. And what I mean by that is when you're going through certain parts of the process, there'll be little pop-ups that explain, a portion of the site and why we're doing it this way. In particular, the background check process is very clear and articulated. It's important that people understand exactly how that process works, what information is collected, what is seen, what control over that information that you have. So we really try to be as clear as possible so people can manage their way through the site. We have a great help center, and we have a great customer support team. We do chat, email, phone, and we also do text support. Then we have templates and checklists and a home sharing agreement template that acts like a lease, but it's specifically for home sharing. So it helps articulate house rules and what spaces are shared and what different expectations there are. And in addition to all of this, we do have a nonprofit partner that does mediation and conflict resolution that we can refer our users on. So if something is coming up that is not, possible to resolve, our customer support team is trained by this mediation nonprofit, but if they're not able to assist, we can refer along to for those mediation services. They're a HUD, housing counseling entity, that offers mediation and conflict resolution. And I'll say we started offering that a little over a year ago, and I think we've only referred 2 people to the mediation services. And, you know, that's not to say there aren't other conflicts that people are managing that we don't hear about or know about, but we're hopeful that we're strong from the preventative lens. So making sure people are background checked and identity verified, and you're well matched, and you've communicated about all the sticky stuff that really helps prevent issues down the road. But, you know, we're human beings, so it's good to have that resource if we need it. This is just a little flavor of what the site looks like if you haven't gone to it. And, you know, the basics are kind of what I already went through. You sign up, you answer questions, you browse, you know, that match with your preferences. You get to know your you get to know your matches and screen and discuss, and then you can make it official with a home sharing agreement. You can see here on the right, this dashboard. This is what it looks like once you formally signed up. You can peruse profiles of home seekers if you're a host. And if you're a home seeker, you can peruse the listings and you can communicate with one another. Okay, so what does it cost to use Silvernest? So to go to silvernest.com and look around, or go to Silvernest through the Methow at Home Partnership landing page, which I'll show you and talk through kind of how that works. It's free. You can sign up, you can look around, you can complete some simple, you know, you could find someone on Silvernest Essential. You don't have to upgrade to Silvernest Plus. But if you want to do background checks, or you want the Nest Easy agreement, and some other, you know, bells and whistles, the subscription is $24.95 a month for hosts and $14.95 a month for home seekers. And those plus subscriptions do include a background check, which we do also provide for $29.99 on our platform by itself. So if you're not a plus member, you can still purchase a background check if that's something that you'd like. The reason why we don't charge upfront for some of that initial work is just we are a national platform, but we don't have tons of inventory in every community. So we felt it's important for people to look around to see, you know, what might be valuable to them before they pay any money. And this monthly subscription, you can cancel it at any time. We anticipate people will stay around for 3, 4, or 5 months, whatever it may be, that they explore and either decide to proceed or decide that it's not for them, and then can cancel that subscription at any time. It works just like a Netflix or a Hulu type subscription model. You can manage all your preferences in your account. This is just a little Venn diagram. I think we've already really talked about this. Home sharing is one of those solutions that it's fascinating if you consider it, because you don't really feel like living alone, but you're also then earning some income, and that's nice, and sharing some expenses. If you enter into the home sharing arrangement because you want a little extra cash flow, and then subsequently you find, I kind of like having this person around. There's like these nice ways where just because you enter into a home sharing agreement for one reason, you get the benefit of them all. Just fascinating. So just gonna take a breath there, take a quick sip of water. So now to talk about the partnership with Methow at Home. So first of all, this is the second village in the country to do a partnership with us and do a home sharing program in the community. Very exciting. I think that a village partnership with Silvernest is very sensible, given the goal of a village is to support people to stay in their community and to age in place, or so to speak. And so it's a nice supplementary way and a nice additional resource to consider that helps achieve that mission. So this is kind of a wordy slide, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about kind of this is the program description that I received from the team at Methow at Home, where we're really looking to assist members to remain in their homes, offer reduced rent for some help around the house, providing the homeowner as well as someone who is seeking affordable housing. They can form deep relationships. The extra income can be a game changer. It's a win-win situation. and a bonus for the community where affordable housing is desperately needed. I am in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm not a pro about your community, but I have heard that it's a pretty rural community, has a lot of weather that can be pretty severe, that can be kind of difficult to manage and navigate. And so, creating spaces where we can still remain together can be really beneficial. So just to show you how it works, I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second and show you a couple process pieces so it's clear how this partnership will work. Find the right screen. Okay. So here is the Methow at Home site, which I'm presuming most of you are familiar with. And you can see here the sign up for home sharing. If you click here, what's nice is it takes you directly to what we call a landing page. And this landing page has Methow at Home's logo here. It's, you can see it's the correct place. And, we do these landing pages with partnerships so that there's some continuity there. And it's like, oh, I thought Methow at Home was doing home sharing. What's this Silvernest thing? Like, it tries to articulate the partnership and the fact that we're connected and that you're in the right place. There's some information about some education about home sharing and how does it work. And then when at the bottom, it's just some details about the project. So it's about our partnership, it's about the village, it's about Silvernest, and some information about if you have a question for the village, this is where to call. If you need support from Silvernest, this is where to call. But what's interesting to point out about this landing page that I know Tracy wanted to make sure we mentioned was, if you're interested, if you're on the Methow site and you click sign up for home sharing, you end up on the landing page. If you want to list your space, you click here. If you want to rent, you click here. And it takes you directly to our site, the Silvernest site. And then we know, because you've clicked these buttons within the landing page, we know at Silvernest, oh, these are Methow at Home users, and we can track and coordinate with the village staff on kind of how it's going and who's maybe the traction that we're seeing or where are people getting stuck, and we can improve our partnership from there. So I wanted to just demonstrate, I found I will say there is not a lot of listings in your geography yet, but I'm hopeful that this partnership will help us start to populate the area with some other listings for potential renters. But I wanted to just go through, this is a listing that is in Winthrop. And, it talks a little bit about the home, just to give you a sample of what a listing will look like. It talks about the rent and a deposit, and this is the will consider work for reduced rent, so people can see in the listings if that's something that they might want to offer. This person looks like they're open to a lot of different durations. So that could be something the home seeker would say, great, I'd like to try 3 months, please. And it looks like they're open to that. And just descriptions about the place, the type of home. This is a shared bath situation, so that's something to consider for a seeker if that's important to them. No pets, no smoking. They do have a yard, a patio, a washer, dryer, a fireplace, internet, free parking, some safety features. They list a little bit about their house rules. And you'll see it's just a general location because we leave it up to the users to decide to disclose the location until they're ready. And this user is a graduate student and just shares a little bit about themselves in this post. And so if as a user, if I was signed in, I could message this person and say, hey, I'd love to consider your listing. And actually, I just went through, like I said, I'm not as familiar with your part of the country, but I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, what a cool cabin. I didn't know if this is how homes near you always look or if this is kind of a special spot, but they've got a wood burning stove, and it just looks so pretty and inviting. And so I just wanted to give you a sense of what those what the process looked like. So Methow's website, landing page, you go in, and then you end up on the broad Silvernest site. So what's also nice is that we get listings and users signing up through our own efforts as well, through marketing and other partnerships. And so we're all working together to build inventory and profiles. So just because you list through this partnership, if there's any other inventory in the area, even if it's not from this partnership, you can still explore it and have it available to you, because having choice is the best option to finding a good match. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to my presentation for a moment. Okay, and then the last piece is just to go through some resources, and I can make sure that this is available to anybody who would like it. I can send it to the team at Methow at Home, and then if anybody requests it, you're welcome to share it. These are all linked resources, so if you're just curious about home sharing generally, maybe stories of home sharing arrangements, some data and trends around who is starting to really consider this. Actually, because you all are in Washington, University of Washington did a really fascinating home sharing study and made some policy recommendations to encourage it. And it's a nice kind of lay of the land of the home sharing, and then specifically in Washington. And some of our partners have some nice stories. This is just a sampling of a few. So that's all I had to review. So I'm happy to take questions or review anything that maybe I went a little quickly on.
Great. I wonder if we could go back to the full gallery view for our questions.
Oh, yeah.
Super. Thank you, Amy. That was, yeah, really well done. Let's open it up. And just so you all know out there that you are muted, so.
I see Vicky has a question. You want to unmute, Vicky?
Sure. Hi, I'm a lurker from Whidbey Island. We have South Whidbey at home here as well. I'm working with some friends on a project that we call in-home suites. What we've noticed is that people are afraid they just don't want to share their kitchen. And they don't want to share the bathroom. They're just like, those are the privacy issues. So we're trying to create this intermediate thing where the room has its own little cooking and refrigeration. What is your experience, or, what have you read about the home sharing barriers to actually sharing kitchen, bathroom, like sort of too intimate, to that sort of thing?
Sure. I think that is what some of our tools try to get under and force function a conversation about expectations, and sort of encourage, as part of the planning process for each individual, to say, what am I comfortable with and what am I not comfortable with, and give them the tools to articulate that very clearly. I think that sometimes our default is like, oh yeah, sure, just, use it, whatever, please clean up, like no problem. We're real light on rules or expectations, and that can lead to some challenges. So our home sharing agreement template has a house rules and a shared space addendum that is pretty clear about what is shared space, what times of day, is okay, what volume of music, or is the TV shared, and what hours of the day is it shared. And over time, probably some of those rules relax as people get more familiar and comfortable with one another. But we try to force those conversations as much as we can. I think that's probably the only real tip I have.
I got it. Yeah. So your platform could be used in that way, so that somebody could say, you can't share my kitchen, but I provided you with XYZ in your room. That would be part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because there would still be shared components of the property, so it's still
Of
home
course.
sharing.
Yeah. Washer,
Shared
dryer,
trash,
blah, blah,
shared
blah.
parking, shared washer dryer. Yeah, yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah, got it. That's great. Thanks.
I see a question from Debbie in chat. Can you talk about the market in Chicago? How can we help get the word out in the Midwest? Ooh, Debbie, I'd love to talk with you. We do have some organic listings in the Chicago area. And, you know, like I said, we're open nationwide, but where we have partnerships and where we're spending money on advertising really drive a lot of that inventory. So I'm very open to conversations about partnerships in Chicago. You know, just to give you a sense of some of our other partnerships. We partner with some area agencies on aging. We partner with 3 states AmeriCorps programs, helping those that are doing the year of service find more affordable places to live. We have a partnership with a VA medical center, with some senior living advisors who help people find, you know, long-term care facilities, realtors, lenders, general nonprofits, HUD housing counseling agencies. So I mention all that because sometimes figuring out a really interesting entity in a given community and what role they can play is a really great way to open up more places, because Silvernest coming into a city and a community and advertising, we're a company advertising a service. So some people will be interested in that. Some people might tune that out. But if a local community organization is saying, hey, we're partnering and championing this with Silvernest as our technology partner, they can usually reach a lot more people. You know, small nonprofit organizations, we find often the leadership they serve on task forces, and they join monthly calls with different community organizers in their communities. They're attending different community meetings that are collaborating on different projects. And so it's a really fertile ground for them sharing the news and the information and the option. So that's one way. But Debbie, I'd love to talk more about maybe what you might be thinking.
Sure. Amy, can I ask, is it possible you could put something in the chat, like a link, so that if people are affiliated with a village or other organization and wanted to have an article to drop into their online newsletter about Silvernest, that we could just forward it and say, I attended a webinar, I've heard about this organization, let's look into it. That would be helpful.
Yes, I'm going to actually put my email address for now, but also Tracy and Deirdre have access to a library of resources that have things like flyers and FAQs and 10 things to know about Silvernest and such. So there's what we call kind of activation materials, kind of to your point. So you don't have to come up with it on your own. You can just cut and paste. So either we can coordinate with the Methow at Home team, or you can connect with me directly.
Great. Thank you so much.
Connie, did I say that correctly?
Yes, she did. I had a question. Can you peruse the site, say you're going to host, because I actually have 2 locations possibly. So to see kind of who the seekers are before you post, or, you know, I have a place on the west side of the mountains here in the Seattle area versus the Methow as well. So I didn't know if there's any way you can kind of, I mean, they have the free site, but without posting your property or whatever, just to see what kind of traction you're getting for possible shares.
So you can look at available listings, but we don't have a way to browse home seekers publicly.
Oh,
so
okay.
you would want to create a listing. And, you know, just because you create a listing, you know, like I said, your privacy is protected, so you don't have to put your name or your contact information on anything. You can do a listing and you can just see who might be interested. You can privately message with them, and you can always decide, you know, this isn't for me, and take it down. We have lots of options you can delete your profile at any time. You can hide your profile or your listing at any time, which just, you know, means that it's not searchable or unseeable, but all your content's still there. So we have good controls for your info, so you don't have to do it all over again if you change your mind. But my sense would be make the listing and then see what happens. And then you can always just decide it's not for you.
Okay, thank you.
Organizing white men for common liberation. I love this. What's your name?
Yeah, Byron. My name's Byron.
Great. Hi.
Yeah, so I'm curious, do you have any resources like, I have, my mother-in-law lives in a house next door to us. And I was wondering, as far as your services, do you provide one-on-one, like a conversation with her to explain what's going on, you know, like an overview or a film, you know, or is it more just kind of like on the web kind of interfacing?
Mhm. Yeah, our approach is more do it yourself, where people navigate the site on their own. Like I said, we definitely have customer service who answers lots of questions all day long about how to use the site and tips and best practices and so on. But we don't, we rely on our technology to do the compatibility piece and the matching and to facilitate the communication. That's just our model. That certainly means it doesn't work for everybody, which is why we love to support any home sharing program out there, because we all serve different types of folks and different needs.
Amy, could he do that? Could he do that for his mother?
Yeah, as
Yeah.
long as it's
So
disclosed.
Byron,
And she
yeah,
has
you could do that. And Byron, if you wanted one of us to come talk to your mom about it, Tracy and I or Selena or somebody could come and, you know, meet with you and then go over to your mom's house, talk to her about it.
Perfect. Yeah, that answers the question. Thanks. Yeah.
Great. And that's also
Right
the
on.
beauty of having community partnerships, is just like what Deidre said, you know, it's most of our partnerships have some sort of staff capacity. You know, it varies, but some have time to support their users. Some don't. It really just depends. But the fact that you've offered, that's lovely. And really our dream partnership is that we're kind of working together to fill any kind of information gaps. Vicky has asked, unless I'm missing anybody, how much does it cost for a local agency like Methow to partner? Sure. So while I'm talking, I'm going to drop our partnership information in the chat, but we have two ways to partner with us. One is just a simple referral partnership, which is very simple. You know, includes some resources, a special link, you know, it doesn't cost anything. And then the other way to partner is our program partnerships, which is what most of our partnerships are. And that's what gets the reporting, the partner resource library, the training and onboarding, the co-branded landing page, you know, just sort of activates the whole process. And that's $2,500 annually. And I just dropped the link in there, so there's lots of information on how that works on our site. And you can also email me directly. I'm happy to talk it over. Any partnerships with municipalities yet? If not, are there any in the pipeline? Great question. So not specifically a municipality. We do have one in the South Bay in California, which is a council of governments, which might be the one that's close enough to that kind of model, where the councils of those governments in that area have come together and they're, you know, leverage buying power and, you know, do policy and advocacy and community work all together. And we have a partnership with them. They funded their program through homelessness prevention innovation money, which is fascinating. And I think some are funding their partnerships through COVID relief activities, so reducing social isolation, helping people level their income, maintain their housing affordability. Some have done through grants. One of our partnerships actually had a county that issued an RFP, and they had a competitive process. The nonprofit that won that RFP then, you know, hired us to help them implement. And I think that's a fascinating model as well, to consider the role that the county can play, because you can see it's not terribly expensive to launch something and to get something going and to make this resource available. So sometimes there's a little bit of luck with finding some extra, you know, for some of the cities, you know, $2,500 is, you know, couch money. So that's what we've seen be successful.
I wonder if there's anyone out here who has done some home sharing and has had, you know, a good experience or wants to share their experience here.
Diane.
Hi, Amy.
Diane. Nice to see you.
I'm another lurker.
I love it. I love it.
You can see behind me, I live in Boise, Idaho, and I've been a longtime friend of Maggie Coons and Mark Wolf. And so I heard about you guys a long time ago, and bravo to what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. So my husband and I have shared our home in Boise since we bought it in 1986. We have had dozens of housemates. They are still, those who are still living in the area are good friends. We see them when we can, and I highly recommend it. We basically, we always charged whatever somebody could afford. And so sometimes people pay $300, sometimes they pay nothing a month. We had a woman who was pregnant and didn't have any money. She lived with us. She had her baby. She house cleaned for us. That was her rent. And I learned about being a mother because I've never had kids. So I had up to a 9-month-old baby in my house, and it was incredible. You know, every experience with every person you share with is different. And we've only had 2 issues with people that we asked them to leave. One was a woman who didn't like crumbs on the counter. She was a little obsessive. And we did have a few crumbs because my husband bakes bread. The other one was a lady who had just broken up with her husband. She had 2 little kids. She couldn't live with them in our house because our house wasn't kid-proofed, and she really needed to be with them, and so she left. But other than that, we've had people from 2 months to 2 years or more live with us. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you've got any.
That's a great story. I'm just curious, were you sharing the kitchen with obviously the crumbs on the counters, and the bathroom? Did they have their own bathroom?
Okay, I should explain. Our house is 3,000 square feet. It's in the foothills in Boise. You can see Boise behind me. That's the vision or the view we have from our front window. So it's bigger than most houses are. But when we bought it, we knew we wanted to share it with people. It has basically 2, 3, well, now 4 bedrooms upstairs, if you want to call it that, and 2 bedrooms downstairs. One of them is an office for my husband. One of the upstairs ones is my office. So we have rooms that we can share both upstairs and downstairs. There are 5 entrances to the house. So you can come and go to the downstairs suite, we call it. It's got a bedroom, a large closet, and a half bath, no shower, but there's a toilet and a sink and a storage area. And so that's the main room that we have rented for many, many years. Recently, because the need is greater, we've been renting our upstairs single bedroom with a bath that is shared by the next door bedroom. It does have a shower. We've had a man who lived, he was working at the University of Boise State University as a researcher, came over from China. He has a place in Beijing with his wife that's about the size of my office. So he was quite happy to move into the single room upstairs, and he lived with us for a year. Our current housemate in that room is a man who was born without hearing. And so noise around him doesn't really bother him. He also graduated from Stanford 4 years after I did, and has sailed around the world, and is a very interesting man that has done a lot of things. So it really, everything is different.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Vicky, do you have your hand up again? Oh, I can't hear you.
You're muted.
I've had about 25 people live in my house since I bought it in 2009. It's a split entry house. And so first converted the a family room downstairs, which has a separate entrance and a bathroom, into a little unit. And then that was like so good. And then I converted the garage into another unit because I never parked my car in there. And since the beginning of the pandemic, by accident, I had a young writer want to like live with me so she could finish her novel. So I've had young creatives in my guest room. And I provide them with a little mini fridge, a hot plate, and a semi-private bath. It's like, my guests use the bathroom if I ever have anybody in the house. So I basically have 3 areas where people rent. The guest room I trade for, vacuuming,